A lot of the companies and governments that buy your software had a real shock to the system when the pandemic hit. And now they're feeling another shock as the world reopens. You're talking to these customers around the world. What trends are you seeing in terms of what they're feeling as the world starts to come out of this?
I think the customers that are really eager to reopen, really reinvesting in this right now, see that the shocks are likely to continue, that an efficient organization that's fragile is not the future. And if you really want to thrive and survive into the future, you have to expect continuous disruption. And so how do you build your organization, whether it's a container ship blocking the Suez Canal or a public health emergency? These things are going to continue to happen.
So let's talk about, are there countries or governments that you find are better at reopening or faring better as this transition back to some sort of new normal happens?
Well, we see this in part in our own business, where the U.S. commercial business is really on fire. And I think that's in part a function of how well, on a relative basis, the U.S. vaccination program has really gone. And I think that the countries that are succeeding on the vaccination front are going to be in a better position here, and that we all have an obligation to help every country get there.
Now, government demand for your software, as I mentioned, surged in the midst of the pandemic, helping with vaccine rollout, helping to predict COVID hotspots. What's your big takeaway from this last year as the COO? And, how do you keep growing the government business, which makes up roughly half your revenue?
So we helped over 100 organizations, government and commercial, in the context of the pandemic, helping them with durability of operations, helping them with disrupted demand, shocked supply, allocating PPE and vaccines, as you mentioned here. And the thing that sticks out to us across all these experiences, across all these organizations, is that they are all structurally stymied by how locked in their data is to legacy systems. That was really the first problem we were helping all these customers with, is getting at their own data to make better sense of it, make better decisions with it, to drive their business and survive or provide a public service. And really, Alex mentioned this on Monday, but we're going to be offering our software for free to all major companies around the world who employ large numbers of folks who are crucial, who make and produce and distribute things that are crucial to restarting the economy, to help get things restarted, help get back to full unemployment, make sure that no one is left behind simply because they're locked into old platforms.
Now, Kathy Wood's ARK Invest just added you to their fund. She's got a huge retail following. Just today, there's been a ton of chatter online among retail investors about Pallantier. How do you feel about this new interest?
We're proud of our investor base. We're excited by the folks who are cheering us on and really believe in our long-term vision here. I would reiterate Alex's position in our own. I've been at Pallantier for 15 years. I certainly hope that I'll be lucky enough to be here for 15 more. And we're building a really sustainable business for the long term that we think can be one of the most important software companies in the world.
Now, Pallantier has pitched itself as the operating system for government, and yet you've got privacy advocates out there who are concerned about this outsized influence and claim that it's allowing companies and governments to weaponize data to perhaps find and deport individuals from certain countries or unfairly target people of color. What's your response to some of this criticism?
Well, in an open society, we welcome this sort of critiques. I think the thing that's actually very misunderstood about Pallantier is that we don't hold any data. We don't collect any data. We help our customers bring together their data in our enterprise software platform to make better decisions. But we do that with the principled perspective. A huge swath of the 15 years and $3 billion of R&D that we put into our products is actually about enhancing privacy while enabling effectiveness of businesses or government organizations. So whether that's Datenschutz in the German context or privacy and civil liberties in the Anglosphere, helping companies actually be more effective and more compliant is crucial. If you look at the work that we've done with NHS England with the vaccine rollout, we've incorporated an entirely new privacy framework called purpose-based access control that I think is going to be the gold standard for how you protect the information of citizens, how you govern the use of the data, how you ensure data and AI models are only being used for the purposes that are legally allowed, and you have a full audit trail, full inspectability. I'm really excited about that.
Now, Now, Palantir has offices around the world, but you just moved headquarters from Silicon Valley to Denver. You've personally just moved to Denver yourself. There's always been this sort of lore and mystique around Palantir, this, the defending the Shire and Lord of the Rings references. How has the culture changed since Palantir's become a public company? And is there a new Palantir emerging in Denver?
Well, I've always felt that culture is something you have to wake up every day and fight for, and that the entropy of the universe is really something that slowly eats away at it. So I think Palantirians are a motivated group to preserve and enhance our culture. It's what makes it special to be here. And COVID really reinforced that, just the purpose, being on the front lines, helping institutions, helping save lives is just so rewarding. It's immensely rewarding. And that's true whether we're in Stockholm or Tokyo or Denver or Palo Alto. As you mentioned, we've had 30 offices or so around the world for a long time now. And for this next phase of our growth here, as we grow substantially with industrials, manufacturing companies, and healthcare, Denver is really the right home for us.
Now, your chairman, Peter Thiel, has expressed concern about Bitcoin, that it could be used by China as a financial weapon. And then there's been ensuing speculation that Palantir software could somehow help counter that. What are your thoughts on his remarks, and is there any appetite to use Palantir technology to that end?
Well, I think there's no doubt that crypto in general is a disruptive force, and disruption can be good and bad at the same time. It's a little quantum in that way. And so I think we should be asking these questions. We should be thinking about it. We should be exploring it from all angles, and we certainly are from our approach at Palantir.
Now, I want you to take us into the future. We've got about a minute left. In the last year, so many companies and governments have compressed years of tech adoption into one. What does that mean for the next 5 to 10 years? How differently positioned are they to perform?
Well, I think the pandemic has taught us all, and the subsequent crisis to that the sort of heuristics, the equilibrium that we used to live in is not coming back, and that you should really be planning for a future of constant disruption. And so how resilient is your institution? In the government context, that's the legitimacy of the institution, the ability to serve its people and to keep us united as a society. In the commercial context, it's existential, your ability to survive. Are you going to be around in 10 years? And so I think a lot of the technology acceleration has shown where the emperor has no clothes and what investments people should be making in to have a resilient organization going forward.